Well, I saw these couple of news stories yesterday on what's going on with the World Cup next year in Kansas City, and I was like, man, this is not smelling good to me. But you tell me at 913-408-7957. Great to be here on a Thursday on KCMO Talk Radio. Set the preset right now if you haven't yet on 95.7 FM. So this first story is at a Lee's Summit. And I'm reading between the lines here on this Lee's Summit story I saw that says the city is taking steps to focus on public safety during the World Cup next summer. Of course, we'll have a quarterfinal, we'll have 6 overall matches, and a variety of other events starting June 11th of next year. And the story from KCTV5 reads that the City Council in Lee's Summit passed plans that will change where some people will watch fireworks for the 4th of July. It also took steps to outline exactly which events will be able to take place across the city while the massive international event is in the metro. The changes will apply from June 1 of next year through July 31st of next year. Because we've got, practices and events happening before the first game at Arrowhead on June 16th of next year. So they're tweaking things like how many fireworks shows they'll allow. They'll be scaled down next year on the 4th of July. Food trucks are going to be limited. They will ease some of the restrictions around temporary signs on businesses, rah-rah, World Cup, all these different things. But I'm reading between the lines here, and I would love to be wrong about this, but I think what this is really about is public safety. And the fact that all of our area law enforcement officers are going to be stretched thin. They'll be helping out, whether it's specifically at Arrowhead Stadium or anywhere else. They'll be helping out, and they may not have time to make sure that their own residents are best taken care of. And this is not a one-time deal, right? It's not like, hey, we're hosting an AFC championship game and we need some help on Sunday of the game at Arrowhead, or we're doing a Super Bowl parade. So for these few hours, 6A to 6P on the day of the parade, we're going to need some help. We got to make sure that we've got extra bodies on hand because we're going to have 1 million people down at Union Station. So it's all hands on deck. Now, this is 2 months. This is 2 months of having area law enforcement potentially stretched thin and short-staffed to help out with the World Cup. That's not a good situation for anybody, whether it's in KCMO or it's in Lee's Summit. And I am not an anti-World Cup guy at all. I'm happy it's coming here. Rah-rah, Kansas City. I don't know if I'm going to go to a game or not. I have no idea. I mean, the price points aren't great. There are some entry-level price points at like $60, but it looks like that's about 10,000 seats at Arrowhead where it's actually a $60 price point. It goes up to about $410 to see a match, and that's just, for the early games. So it's not an easy price point to get in. But that being said, it's not about being anti-World Cup. It's just about, hey, this is supposed to be the greatest thing that's ever happened in Kansas City. That's how some people bill it. And if it comes at the expense of basic services for people around the metro and public safety for people around the metro, it's not worth it. We know we've got a KCMO police department that's down 300 cops, and they have been for the last several years. We know that other law enforcement agencies are going to have to help out around the metro. And if that means you've got fewer cops in Lee's Summit or in Overland Park or in Liberty, well, that's not what those communities are paying taxes for. And please spare me there's a massive economic windfall here for everybody. I mean, there will be for some people, but you will be in parts of Kansas City and not notice for a second there's a World Cup going on. The notion that the metro of 2.5 million people are all going to be feeling the World Cup and, man, traffic's going to be crazy and no one's going to be able to get around. There will be parts of town where it's very noticeable. But I believe in the majority of this community, you could go 2 months and not even know what's going on. So when I saw this, I was like, man, this is kind of a nice way of saying we're going to be stretched thin next summer. And if you are a taxpayer, you're a homeowner, and you expect those basic services, you expect to be able to call the police and, have someone show up, not like, oh, man, sorry, we're doing World Cup duties today. That's something that shouldn't fly at all. And then there was this yesterday as well. World Cup 2026 volunteer interest sets a record as application deadline approaches. Now, maybe you've applied to be a volunteer. You guys haven't told me yet. Have either of you applied to be a volunteer?
Not me.
Okay. I just wanted to know if I needed to plan a replacement for next year. That's all.
I
Mark?
did not sign up for that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you've tapped out on your volunteerism for now because, you did a Apple TV show this summer. All right?
Yes. Kansas City Untitled series.
Yes. You're please don't ask for that, Mark. You were gone. What were you gone for? A week? 2 weeks? What were you out for doing that show?
It was about 5-6 show days.
Yeah, you know. And now you worked hard, though. You worked your tail off.
Yeah, it was a long time.
All right. Well, please don't ask to be a volunteer at FIFA. I don't think they're paying anyway. This is, the word volunteer. But anyway, the number of people interested in volunteering in Kansas City and other cities during the World Cup has set a new record according to FIFA. More than 1 million people, this is around the country, not just in Kansas City, have applied for the chance to be involved in the massive sporting event across Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. FIFA said that is more volunteer applications than any sporting event in history. The number is expected to grow before FIFA closes the process tomorrow, October 10th. You have until Friday at 11 o'clock Central Time to apply to be a volunteer for the World Cup. Now, I think volunteering is admirable. Volunteering for your kid's school, volunteering at your local church, volunteering at your charity of choice. Those are great. I don't care how big a soccer fan I am. I would never in a million years volunteer for an operation as corrupt as FIFA. I mean, FIFA's corruption history is a very long one. And I'm just scratching the surface when you talk about how U.S. prosecutors detailed payments made to FIFA board members to secure votes for Russia in 2018 and Qatar in 2022 as hosts. You go back to South Africa's 2010 bid. You had $10 million payments allegedly intended for Caribbean football development transferred to an account controlled by Jack Warner, who was then the head of CONCACAF, in exchange for his support in helping South Africa secure the 2010 World Cup. I mean, that's just scratching the surface on some of the corruption around FIFA. Why you would just willingly give your time to FIFA? I don't get it, John. I really don't.
Yesterday, we played a clip of NFL Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson at the airport.
Yeah.
Talking about how corrupt NFL was. And he thought they were as corrupt as the federal government. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm sure the Olympic Committee and FIFA are saying, hold my beer.
Yes.
So we could find Eric. He may enlighten us further on that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Oh, that's so true, man. It's just like volunteering your time is admirable. Volunteering your time for FIFA? I don't get it. I don't understand it. Now, there are people who are volunteering their time to organize the World Cup for Kansas City at the very high level. I can somewhat understand that because you want the event to go off without a hitch in this town for this community. But at the lower levels, like just regular people like us saying, I'm going to volunteer to FIFA? My goodness. Why don't you volunteer for the drug cartels of Mexico while you're at it? This is not an admirable group at the very top. It's not. It is highlighted by corruption. It is highlighted by bad actors. And while I hope there's a great economic windfall for Kansas City come next summer, and I'm glad that we've got a few games, I'll tell you right now, I'm totally fine having nothing to do with this event ever again after July 31st of next year. Mayor Lucas will be here at 7:35 on KCMO. He's 20 minutes away. And he's overseas this morning. So I have not heard otherwise. The plan is for him to call in. Hopefully he will be here. And we'll look forward to talking to him coming up at 7:35 on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. You can stream us, as always, on the KCMO Talk Radio app. So Kay Barnes is now the interim county executive in Jackson County. But there was a way that she was introduced by so many people in media yesterday. And it was, of course, checking off certain boxes, because that's what we do when we describe people. We describe them based on their race and their gender and all these different things, instead of just like who they are and what their history is. And it just made me think of a question that I don't think we're asking enough. Not about Kay Barnes in particular, but specifically about how and when we describe people based on their sex and their race. What's the point of any of it? I'll explain more next on KCMO. Yesterday, Kay Barnes became the interim county executive for Jackson County. And I believe she's a great choice. 87 years young. Heard her at the press conference yesterday. Sounded good. Jeez. Goes to show you, age can just be a number. I mean, we had a president last time around who was pushing 80, and the guy didn't know how to get off the stage half the time. I mean, come on, man. It's just, Kay Barnes, 87, was way sharper than he was. Listening to her yesterday. But I bring this up because as I'm watching all the local news, they talk about Kay Barnes and they never talk about her accomplishments. They don't highlight the fact that she was instrumental in getting Sprint Center downtown, now T-Mobile. They don't really talk about the fact that, hey, she was really instrumental in just cleaning up all of downtown during her tenure from 99 to 07. They say Kay Barnes, the first female mayor of Kansas City. And I'm like, man,
nobody cares.
Why is that the first thing you think about with Kay Barnes? With all of her accomplishments, that's where when it's coming down to, even when you're trying to compliment somebody, breaking them down to their race or their gender actually does a disservice to successful people. Now, if you weren't any good at your job, I guess, highlighting the fact that you were the first something might be something you would prefer to do because you had no real accomplishments. But for someone like Kay Barnes, who had really great accomplishments, not that she was perfect, but she had really great accomplishments during her time in office, why local media would just blindly follow each other and just describe her in this very simplistic way, the first female mayor of Kansas City. And by the way, she's the only one. That's the other thing they forget. Why not call her the only female mayor in Kansas City history? Because remember, she leaves office in 07, and then you get the Funk Man, Funkhauser, followed by Bowtie Sly, and now you got Cue Ball. So she's also the only female mayor, which brings me to my next point I was thinking about. If you talk about somebody through the prism of their race and or their gender, and you say, hey, this person was the first female mayor in Kansas City, the insinuation there to me is that, the city was finally ready for a woman mayor. Are we supposed to read into the fact that Kansas City has not elected a female mayor since then? Of course not. The answer is no. But when you think about it through the prism of everything is race or gender and everything, or, sexual orientation or whatever it might be, like Kamala Harris tried this thing in her book where she's like, I wanted to have Pete Buttigieg as my VP, but I don't think America was ready for a gay VP. It's like, what does it say about what you think about the American people? Maybe it's more about the fact that Pete Buttigieg had zero accomplishments, whether it was as mayor of South Bend or as the transportation secretary. Did you think about that? But no, it's always through trying to fit the narrative around what race or gender or sexual orientation can do for your movement, for your side. And I don't even think that, whether it's anyone in local media, I don't think they're inherently doing this on purpose for some kind of narrative. It's just they get into this bubble and they think, oh, Kay Barnes, we'll describe her as the first female mayor in Kansas City history. It's like, well, she's also the only one, so you could use that to describe her as well. But it's completely irrelevant to the broader conversation. Like why they feel the need to do that every single time they talk about her after she has her first press conference yesterday, I can't figure out for the life of me outside of the fact that they're all just going to the same J schools. They're coming out. They're using the same words, the same verbiage, the same lingo. They're doing it all as my pen just flies across the studio here. because I'm not even worked up. I'm just using my hands to talk about this topic, and my pen just went flying across the studio. I would love for them to just hit the reset button and say, Kay Barnes, the mayor of Kansas City, 9907, is now the interim county executive. And if you don't know anything about her, here's who she is, and here's her background, and here's why she's an important figure in this community. Instead, all they give you, every one of them, watching the news last night. First female mayor. And does it say that Kansas City has not wanted a female mayor since then because there hasn't been one since Kay Barnes? No, that's not what it means at all. Which is why when you go down that road and you play that game and you actually think about it beyond just, it sounds good, it actually makes no sense and it makes the voter look bad.